You're watching Aurora 8, proud to be serving Aurora, Colorado, and all-America city.
If you're a high school student or the parent of a high school student here in Aurora and you're wondering how you're going to pay for college, you'll want to pay close attention. How about the first 2 years? Count them, the first 2 years of college free. This is no gimmick, I'm not kidding. It's real, or you don't have to join the military or anything else. It's a successful program going on right now at the Community College of Aurora. In the next half hour, you can find out about this amazing opportunity and many others available at CCA as we introduce you to the new president of the college, Dr. Betsy Oudenhoven. That's all coming up next on Dateline Aurora.
We're really excited that you've chosen to come to Community College of Aurora.
And welcome to Dateline Aurora. I'm Adam Dempsey. We still have the best theme on TV. As I mentioned before, that 2 complete free years of college education are possible for high school students right here in Aurora, and I'm going to tell you about all of that. But as they say, you got to wait till it's later in the program. We think it's important that you know first about the institution here in our city that makes the whole thing possible. The Community College of Aurora was created by the Colorado General Assembly back in 1983. Since that time, it has provided tens of thousands of students the opportunity for quality higher education, as successful as the college has been with several major expansions over the years. The institution has never been one to rest on its past achievements. CCA is always looking forward toward the future to find new and better and exciting ways to serve the needs of students and the community. Joining us tonight to talk about both the present and future of CCA is recently appointed college president, Dr. Betsy Oudenhoven. Welcome to Dateline.
Thank you.
You've been working there already for a while.
I have. I've been there for about 2.5 years.
Just been going up the food chain then, right?
Yeah, yeah. Quickly.
Yeah.
I was hired by Dr. Linda Bowman in 2011 to be her vice president of student affairs, and then last July I took the interim position as president and was appointed in December.
Okay, so what's your background? You're from Colorado then? You went to school in Boulder? Give us some insight.
Yeah, I actually grew up in the Northeast. I grew up in upstate New York.
Okay.
And I did my undergraduate work there, and then I love Colorado and I love the mountains, and so I made the decision to go to the University of Colorado for my master's work in counseling and guidance.
Over Syracuse and all those schools up there in upstate New York?
I heard there was sunshine in Colorado.
That's right.
Yeah. So after I got my master's, unfortunately I couldn't find work in Colorado, but I went to the Midwest. I met my husband. We both worked in higher education for a number of years. Went back to upstate New York, worked for the SUNY system. So I have a fair amount of experience in public 4-year higher education as well.
Okay, SUNY system is University of New York.
Right,
what is it?
State University of New York.
State University, okay. Eventually we get there, but they needed to know what that meant.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of your career has been at 4-year institutions. Student populations are a little different there than they are here. Contrast them both for us.
Yeah, what was interesting for me was when we left New York, we moved to the Chicago area, and both my husband and I moved to community colleges. And you know, what was interesting for me about that move was that when I worked for residence halls in the 4-year systems, my students were all 18 and 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I worked in the Midwest and upstate New York, predominantly rural areas. They weren't very diverse. And one of the things that I loved about community colleges was just the incredible diversity of the student body in every way, age and ethnicity and backgrounds, and also educational levels. You know, I learned that community colleges were the place where students had the opportunity to come and pursue higher education, even if they hadn't been great students or successful students before that.
Yeah.
So it was it was eye-opening and it was really wonderful.
And so that diversity experience you had there plays well here in Aurora because of the diversity that this city has that's reflected in your school.
You know, absolutely. When I left Chicago, I really didn't expect to find the kind of diversity that Aurora has. You know, I thought, you know, Denver maybe, it's a larger city. But Aurora has such an incredible global community. You know, the diversity here is really an international diversity, and I really didn't expect to see that.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
so CCA is actually the most diverse institution that I've been at, and it's just it's a smaller community college than the ones I worked at in Chicago, and it's just a great place. You know, the great thing about the Community College of Aurora is that students are at the center of the conversation.
Yeah.
And people really value who our students are and are really committed to helping them.
Are you able to take advantage of the international component and nature of the diversity of the school there with some people from other countries coming in to speak to other kids here, or, you know, how does that work? Are you able to use that? Because it's got to be a great advantage.
Well, you know, we're trying to be more intentional about how we do use it. Right now what's great is that the in-classroom experience that students have, by virtue of being in a classroom with so many different kinds of students, they get that international flavor. Like there's one of our faculty members doing a model United Nations, and
Really?
we literally have students from all of the countries that are represented in this exercise.
Wow.
So a student that might have a country in this exercise that they don't know very much about, they can find a classmate who's actually from that country and can teach them. We're also looking at partnering with the city of Aurora. They're restarting their Sister Cities program. And so we're looking at opportunities to form partnerships. We've joined World Denver so that we can be intentional about perhaps what you mentioned, bringing speakers in and doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's got to be exciting and a component that most other community colleges just can't do because they don't have the diverse student population to be able to do that.
Right, right. They, you know, the peer-to-peer learning is incredible. And our faculty and our staff, I think, really celebrate that.
Yeah.
We do a fair amount on the campus around international programming, you know, different religions, different cultures. It's challenging for us because, you know, we have to be multiculturally competent ourselves, and we don't always get that right, but we try hard.
One of the old men's tales that's always wandering around is, well, people who go to four-year school, no, people who go to two-year schools can't make it in four-year institutions. Is that still going on?
You know what? I don't hear very much of that. Maybe they wouldn't say it to me. But what we have over the years is we have data that shows that community college students do as well, if not better, than native four-year students. So when our students go to the community college and prepare for transfer, they do their general education courses, they might get a start on their major, and then they transfer. We know in Colorado they're doing great when they get to their transfer institutions. So I think a lot of the myths about community colleges, I think we're dispelling those as it's getting more attention nationally, and also as we have more data to say, here's how our students are doing.
That's because we called it an old man's tale, because, you know, old wives' tales are always right.
Right.
You were the interim, as you said at the beginning of the show. You were the interim for a while. That means you had some mentoring and some leadership direction from Dr. Linda Bowman. Are you still in contact with her and learning all those things she didn't tell you about now?
Yeah, you know, I'm really lucky because Linda still works for the community college system, and in her role she mentors new presidents. So I'm especially lucky because she hired me. I worked for her, and we had a very good relationship, and I get to meet with her regularly and talk about how it's going as president of the college. She certainly knows what I'm talking about because she knows the institution and the people so well. So it's really helpful.
Well, she was good to help us out a lot here on Channel 8, so say hello to her the next time you see her.
I will, for sure. Yeah.
Community colleges in Colorado are governed by a state board. How does that work?
You know, it's really nice. Illinois, every community college had a locally elected board. I think we're lucky in Colorado in that there are 13 community colleges that all report through a system. And then the president of the system reports to the state board. And our state board's really unique in Colorado because there's a state board for community colleges and occupational education. So there's also an arm that goes into the high schools and works with career and technical programs in the high schools. But there, you know, we meet with the board once a month, and they set policy for the community colleges. But it's a very intelligent, committed group of people, and they're very supportive, and it's nice being in a system.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's helpful in a lot of ways.
And they listen to what you have to say, because the challenges you have at CCA here may be different than the challenges they have in Grand Junction.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting about it in the system is that the metro area colleges and then the rural colleges, this is true in a lot of states where there's an urban area and then there's maybe more rural areas, is
Sure.
that there's things that the different colleges share in common. Obviously, we all share some things in common, but the metro area colleges, I think we work together really well to make sure that we're, you know, somewhat consistent in what we're doing, and that we're, you know, collaborating and we're sharing ideas. Again, I'm lucky as a new president because I have a great group of colleagues. So the rural presidents work together to figure out how to best serve their students, and we work together to figure out how to best serve ours. And then all 13 colleges come together to try to get it right for our students.
get them graduated and moved on.
That's right. That's right.
Funding is always a challenge here in Colorado. We see funding rise, funding go down. We know the legislature for the past few sessions has been cutting the higher education budget. It's got to make your job a lot harder to do, because you might have to raise tuition. How do you balance all that?
Yeah, well, you know, one of the things that we're excited about right now is that there has been legislation introduced to give the public institutions of higher education in Colorado more money in this coming year. And that's important to all of us because we want to keep tuition down. For community college students, it's absolutely essential that we keep it affordable for our students. You know, we provide scholarships. We have a great foundation at CCA, and they go out into the community and they raise funds so that we can give additional scholarship money to our students. We also rely heavily on federal financial aid. Ideally, we'd like to get students through without having to take loans out, because if they're transferring to a four-year institution, it's going to be a little bit more expensive for them, and we don't want them to get into debt when they're with us, if we can help it. But you know what, the colleges in Colorado are, have really done a lot with a little. They're very efficient. You know, they do a good job of being creative. Very committed and hardworking group of people, and again, they keep it student-centered. So despite the lack of resources at times, I think that we, you know, we go after grants. We've gotten some good grant money to help support some of what we've done, and we partner. We partner with our community and our local school districts. Student
success. It's not measured the same way they do in high school with TCAPs and that kind of thing.
Right.
In fact, when our producer, Randy Simpson, sent me the information, and it said student success, usually success in college was getting out of the class, matriculating on and graduating.
Yeah.
What measures are you using now that student success is becoming an integral part of the equation?
Yeah, that's a great question, because community colleges in a lot of ways are very complicated institutions. You know, if you go to a four-year university, you're probably there to get a bachelor's degree. If you come to a community college, you might be there for a whole variety of different reasons. And so, you know, we have students who come because they want to take a couple years of general education classes, transfer and get their bachelor's degree. Or they come because they want to get the tools and the skills to go right out and get a job. Maybe they're learning English. Maybe they're just retooling by taking a couple courses. You know, and we have everyone from high school students to retired folks at our college. There's a lot of individual goals that they're trying to attain. So some of what's challenging when we talk about student success is that some of the measures for student success, some of the reporting we have to do is about first-time, full-time cohorts of students. 80% of students at CCA are part-time. So when we're looking at success, we're looking at course level success, but also retention from semester to semester. You know, are we hanging on to students, you know, say from fall to fall? Are students completing certificates and degrees? If a student starts and they're not quite at college level, if they start in a developmental level, can we get them to college level? Those are some of the measures. Are they transferring? You know, if they come to us and say, yeah, I want to go to CU Boulder or somewhere else, are they able to do that successfully? So we do have measures that we track along the way. And as Colorado moves to considering performance funding, that's some of what they're looking at: degree attainment, transfer rates, success in developmental courses, and also, and this is really important, I think especially in Aurora, is closing the attainment gap. You know, are our students of color being as successful as our majority students? You know, can we get our African American and Latino students at the same, successful at the same rate as their classmates? And that's been a real challenge across the country, and it is for us as well.
But when you have so many, as you said, so many other reasons for your students to be in class in the first place. Some are retirees that's going to come back and do something, and maybe I'll go this semester, maybe I won't, I want to go out and travel, versus somebody who's coming out of high school.
Right.
Is it really fair to measure how good the school is according to the diverse interest of the population, of your student population, if they're going to be there now?
Well, you know, that
isn't quite fair.
well, it's a great question
because you can't manage that.
Yeah, it's a great question too. Well, the other piece of that for community colleges is that we have the most at-risk students in higher education. So we have students, you know, we have incredibly capable students. You know, we get valedictorians and salutatorians, and we have people that are coming back. They have bachelors and they have masters. But we also get students who are low income, who do not have strong educational backgrounds, you know, who want to pursue higher education, but maybe aren't real prepared. And some of our students have really tough lives. But what we've decided at CCA is that we're not going to say, well, our students aren't successful because, wow, look at their lives. They have these crazy lives and all of these challenges. And yeah, maybe they're not here, you know, to get a degree. Maybe they're only here to do a few courses. Whatever their goal is, whatever they're trying to do, we feel like we have to look at what's under our control. You know, we can't do anything about the lives that they're living, but how can we help them, support them, you know, and retain them? What kinds of things are under our control? You know, so that we're not saying, yeah, in some ways it's not fair, but in other ways, they're our students, they're who we have, and we want them to be successful.
Yeah, of course, it's my editorial comment there. I don't think the school should be judged by that because we have such diverse lives. I mean, I went through 118 hours of 120 hours and said, I'll get it later. I mean, I'm unsuccessful? No, I had a television station, had a nice job. I want to go do it. I'll go back and do it later.
Yeah.
They didn't go up to Boulder and say you were an unsuccessful school anyway. I better stop beating that horse.
Can I just add to that point, though, because this is kind of important. In transfer, when we look at transfer, a lot of our students leave before they get their associate's degrees.
Right.
We wish they would stay incomplete, but sometimes they don't. That doesn't mean they're unsuccessful, to your point. I mean, just because they left prior to completing their associates, if they're successfully transferring and ultimately they're getting a bachelor's degree, that's still success, but it's really hard to capture, it's really hard to measure.
Are you seeing any impact with online education? Somebody may start online and come into your school, or they may leave your school and go to the online. Is that having an influence and effect on what you do at CCA?
Well, you know, it's a great option for students. We have online courses through the college, then we have online courses also through the system. The dilemma with online courses is that the success rates are not always great. I mean, it has to be the right fit for the student. You know, some of our younger students think, this is great, I can take a course in my pajamas and do my work at 2 in the morning, and then maybe they end up on Facebook. You know, I mean, I think that sometimes students underestimate the rigor of an online course and how organized and disciplined you have to be and how much work it really involves. And so it's a great option for our adult students, our working students. You know, maybe their work doesn't allow them to come to class face-to-face. It's a really good option for some students, but it's not a great option for everybody. They have to be ready for it, and they have to understand how to be successful in an online course.
One of the things you've had to do is start looking at doing a new strategic plan. What's in the crystal ball? What are you looking at? How are colleges, community colleges, going to be changing in the future?
Well,
or should I say this community college?
Well, this conversation is very much a part of what we need to be doing now and in the future, and that's concentrating on student success. Community colleges are access institutions. You know, we've always thrown the doors open and said, you know, everybody come on in and get an education. But our success rates have not been as good as we want them to be. And so the conversation is shifting to how can we help students to be more successful, and how can we help them to complete so that they do have a credential so they can go out there and get those good jobs. You know, we're looking, you know, one of the really interesting issues I think in Aurora is growth. When you talk to Mayor Hogan, he talks about the growth of the city and how we're continuing to grow. And I think as Aurora grows, CCA should continue to grow. So we're kind of taking a look at, do people, and that's why I love the fact that I get to be here, you know, do people know about us? Do they understand what we do? We have two campuses very close to each other, you know, kind of north of Mississippi. We have a large district. I think it's something like 450 square miles. And so do folks in other parts of our district know what we have to offer? You know, do families know what we have to offer? You know, because so many people can take advantage of what we have. And we are the only public higher education institution that serves Aurora. And so, you know, some of it for us is about, we feel an obligation to serve our community. That's why we're here. But are we doing the best job of doing that? And what will it take, you know, for us to grow as Aurora grows?
Are you looking, speaking of growth, are you looking at adding another campus location south or southeast in those other areas of Aurora that are developing to our south?
Yeah, we're talking about it. You know, along with the strategic plan, we are also doing an academic master plan. We're doing a facilities plan. You know, some of what we need to figure out is, what do our employers, so the other part, we've talked a little bit about transfer, but the other part of our mission is we have career and technical programs. Right. And so what do our employers need from us? Are there gaps in terms of the curriculum at the college and what students, you know, the kinds of skills they need to walk into jobs in Aurora and the surrounding communities? You know, so some of it for us is about the drivers. We are looking at what do we need to do in the south and the east, and the drivers are going to be, you know, again, what academic programs do we need to be offering? What do students or residents in different areas of the city need from us, and how can we respond? So we're definitely looking at that, but some of it has to tie into both academic programs and employment.
You're talking about a lot of the connections you have with Aurora and the community itself here. One of the programs you have is that some companies send their employees to you for training and that kind of thing. Tell us about that. It's got to be exciting to help them develop their businesses and their employees by doing that.
Yeah, well, I can give you an example. We have this great relationship with Wagner, where and they do the, when I was in Leadership Aurora, we got to go there and they do all the heavy earth moving. I don't know what you call it, but the big equipment.
Yes, yes.
And so they need employees that can work on all their diesel equipment. So what they've done is they've entered into a partnership with the college where they pay the tuition. So they do interviewing and students that are interested in coming into our diesel program interview with Wagner. Wagner pays their tuition. They come to the college. We teach them how to do diesel, and then they leave with their degrees and they walk into jobs at Wagner. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. It's an incredible partnership. And so that's, I think, a good model of the kind of thing that we would love to do. Again, is there a business, a company, an industry that has a need? Can they partner with us so that we can make that financially possible for our students? We can do the educational piece of it, and then our students can walk back out into jobs.
Now, do you find the companies, or do the companies find you? And if they have to find you, how do they do that?
Well, I think we're doing a better job with that. When I started at the college a couple of years ago, we didn't have a career services office, and community colleges have to have a career services office because we both want to help our students to figure out, number one, what is it that they want to do with their lives? And we need to make connections with our employers so we know what the opportunities are for those students. And we need to pay attention to the data on, you know, what jobs, you know, maybe there's too many workers in one profession and not enough in another. So we've been much better. We've got great career people at the college, and they've been going out more into the community and talking with employers. Plus we have foundation people on our foundation board that help us to make connections, and so it's kind of a combination of both. Sometimes employers will approach us, but I think we have to be more aggressive about getting out there and saying, how can we serve you? What do you need from us?
We told the audience at the top of the show that it's possibility that kids can go to school free. Why wasn't this around? Mine are coming through.
Yeah, I know.
All right, that's got to be an exciting program. Give us some details regarding how it works, because this is spring semester and people are looking to get out and go on to school.
Yeah, well, what it is it's our concurrent enrollment program. And most states have some variety of this, but Colorado has really taken it and run with it. And so how it works is that students in the high schools, and I'll use APS as an example because they've been a great partner in this.
Yeah.
So a student in high school in the Aurora Public Schools, depending on what courses their high school offers, so it's a collaboration with the college where students can come on campus and take courses, or if we have a teacher in the high school who has the ability to teach that course and the credentials, that we can offer the courses right in the high schools. And that's actually most of what we do, is we offer the courses in the high schools. So if students meet the prerequisites, so they have to be, you know, pretty strong students, but if they meet the prerequisites, they can take college courses while they're in high school for both high school and college credit.
Really?
And so a lot of students do that. And then there's kind of a select group that end up doing a 5th year. So they do 4 years of high school, and they will have done some concurrent enrollment in high school. They do a 5th year, and in that 5th year, they come to the college campus, and some of them actually complete their associate's degree at the same time that they're then graduating from high school.
So it's almost like a 4-year school redshirting in sports.
Right.
They get that 5th year.
Right, right.
But they're doing it in high school academically.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're able to, you're able to really compact or all the classes that they need so they can get their associate. They must have started this when they're junior or something to make sure they have enough.
Some of them start
enough time to do
earlier.
it.
Some of them start earlier. Some of them take courses as freshmen and sophomores.
Really? You can go back, they can start that soon then?
Yeah, yeah, if they can qualify. And the great
What's-
part, and you mentioned this earlier, was it's at no cost to the student or the family. You know, that the legislation in Colorado has allowed us to offer this program and basically pick up the cost for these students, so they get a leg up financially, they get a leg up academically, and you know, by the time they're out of high school for a year, they've got 2 years of college behind them.
Student that's a senior now, who do they go to at their school to find out about this, or do they call CCA? Or how does that work so they can, or the student or the parent can find out the information they need to know to try to plug in with this particular program?
They can do it either way. They can call the college, or they can talk to, I think the high school counselors are probably the most knowledgeable and most involved in the program. So I would say if there's a kid in high school that wants more information on concurrent enrollment, they should go to their high school counselor and check that out.
Or their campus tours, and they can come and find out there as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes you don't think in terms of a community college having a campus tour, but
Yeah.
many times that's the best way for a parent to know what goes on and how it goes on and how it works.
Well, and we love doing campus tours. Have to do a plug for that because we have 2 campuses, and a lot of folks don't understand what great programs we have at our Lowry campus. You know, if you drive by the Lowry campus, it still looks kind of like an old Air Force base.
Yeah.
Because it is. But when you get in the buildings, you know, we have a film school over there, we have a simulation labs over there, we have incredible programs over there, so we want people to take tours because we want them to see what we have.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
It's not going to make me go out and have any more kids, but that's exciting. It's great. Dr. Oudenhoven, going to get it right yet. Anyway, well, thank you for being our guest on this
thanks so much.
Dateline Aurora. You have some exciting things that are going on there. And we'll have to twist your arm to come back and join us again to update us regarding where you are and what happens next, right?
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
All right, and we thank you for sharing this edition of Dateline Aurora with us, and we hope to see you right back here again next month.
You're watching Aurora 8, proud to be serving the All-America city of Aurora, Colorado.